press conference here for Crawford versus Khan, Saturday, April the 20th. Delighted to be joined by Mr. Amir Khan. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. It's great to have you here, man. Did we meet in... I don't think you was in London.
I was travelling to New York.
So you wanted to make the New York conference, which I think I'm glad you came because it was a good conference. ESPN are covering the fight, and honestly, I wish you came a little bit earlier this morning because they've had us on all the big TV channels, all the big TV stations, and the shows and everything. Got us working hard here, but look, it's brilliant. This is what I wanted, you know. I wanted a big fight, which is gonna give me a lot more recognition, and also a big fight to win, which will make me a world champion again, and give me that motivation.
It's fair to say that this fight kind of come out the blue from our perspective. No one saw this fight coming between you and Terence Crawford, like no one saw the fight with you and Canelo coming when it did a few years ago. But the initial conversation you had to alert you to, you know, top-ranked Bob Arum were interested in you fighting Terence Crawford. What was your kind of immediate reaction to this and thought process?
Yeah, I mean, at the time when the fight was proposed to me, I was looking at the Kell Brook fight as well with Eddie, and then the opportunity was so big that I couldn't turn it down. I mean, we'll come to that question. Bob, are you leaving? Yeah. I'm sorry about that, Bob.
No, I was just going to say, there's very few people that can willingly interrupt an interview. Bob Arum is definitely one of them.
Yeah, Bob was one of them. I can't say, Bob, wait a minute, give me a second. Anyway, imagine that. So yeah, I was just saying, so there was the Brook fight we were looking at, and then I got this phone call about from Bob Arum saying, look, Amir, would you be interested in the Crawford fight? And I was like, look, I'm looking at the Brook fight. He says, look, Amir, this is a good fight for you as well as it is for him. We're doing it on ESPN pay-per-view. In the last 15-20 years, they've not done a big fight like this. So there's going to be a lot of promotional work going on, and it's just a massive opportunity. And end of the day, so I said to him, look, I need till end of the day, let me have a little think about this. I watched a few videos of Crawford. So I saw that, you know, against another good boxer, he does have problems. For example, Gamboa. My speed's going to help me. My movement will help me in this fight. He's moving up from...
I see the same thing, actually. Gamboa at lightweight. Might have been a catchweight or something. Yeah, it was at lightweight, actually. Must have been a title defense. I wonder what Gamboa had done to deserve that shot. But he did give Terence Crawford a lot of trouble. That was actually the fight. I mean, I've seen Terence Crawford against Ricky Burns. It was impressive, especially if you think of like Ricky Burns, a champion in Scotland. We've seen on multiple occasions that it's not easy to take the title off him. Ray Beltran proved that, and Terence Crawford did go over. He did go over to Scotland to take Ricky Burns' title, you know. I'm not totally sure about the timeline right now, but he did fight Gamboa. That was really the standout performance to me. It was very interesting, from switch hitting to actually overcoming adversity early and late. But coming through against maybe at the time a flawed Gamboa, but not yet exposed, I feel, you know. I believe that was the first loss of Gamboa. Gamboa with 50 Cent. Yeah, man. It really was the last hurrah of Gamboa. Then again, just recently beat Jason Sosa. So Gamboa might have a little bit left in him. Still, 2019. Yeah, but Terence Crawford now is a welterweight, man. Still early in his career at welterweight. To be honest, he impressed me more with the Jeff Horn performance than he did with the Benavidez performance. But once again, you gotta also give him credit for stopping Benavidez in the last round, you know what I mean? Was it the 11th? Anyway, that was a pretty competitive fight, just from a tactical standpoint. I don't think really that Benavidez was in there winning rounds. He didn't really have the output. Also, his leg did give him a little bit of trouble, Benavidez. A tall dude that actually has fought at 140. I've seen him against Mauricio Herrera. And I had Herrera winning that fight. That just also tells you how far Mauricio Herrera has fallen off, you know, since then. Yeah, but Benavides, after inactivity, coming back to 147, really earning, I believe, that shot against Terence Crawford more so with his mouth than with his in-the-ring activity. I believe he got in a little bit of a Twitter beef with Terence Crawford. And maybe there's like a history before that that I'm not aware of, but yeah, Benavides got the shot against Terence Crawford, and you could see that Benavides is a skillful guy, talented guy, but I wouldn't say that he's past his prime, but in a lot of ways he's not the guy that is really able to take full advantage of his talents, it seems like, you know? Whether it's mental or physical, it seemed more physical in the fight against Terence Crawford, but I've seen him also in other fights underperform, you know? Go to the ropes, kind of get overworked. He reminds me a little bit of Adrian Broner in that sense, you know? A lot of talent, but maybe not the winner's mindset, you know? And that's something you can't fault Terence Crawford for, man. This guy's a dog, like Max Kellerman used to say when talking about him. And he fought, oh my god, how do I forget the guy's name, man? He's a Latin fighter. Is he Colombian or something? He knocked Amir out. Terence Crawford fought him in HBO, I believe. And Max Kellerman was talking about, I believe it was like an exchange at the end of the round, of one round, one of the many rounds. The opponent that I'm talking about, like actually I should look it up, but really not in the mood, man. You know, the hardcores probably know who I'm talking about. He knocked Amir out. He got knocked out by Mike Alvarado, and he fought Terence Crawford, a halfway competitive fight, you know? That was Terence Crawford really testing the waters against a bigger guy. Why am I blanking on the name? That's messed up. Terence Crawford was barking at the dude, man. When the dude was complaining to the referee, Max Kellerman, that was the first time that he talked about. Max Kellerman's a little bit obsessed with that, you know? That Terence Crawford is a dog, you know? That he has that mean, silent killer energy going on. But he's on point with that analogy, I guess, you know. Terence Crawford, he's not much for talking. Although he has come out of his shell in recent public appearances, especially with Errol Spence. I guess he's comfortable around his folk. Maybe not the, I don't know, the most comfortable public speaker. Why am I talking about all that? Because Terence Crawford did fight Gamboa, and he had a lot of trouble early in the fight. I believe he was fighting actually, was he fighting Southpaw? Was getting hit a lot early? I need to rewatch that fight, that's a great fight. At the time I was constantly watching that fight. I believe he came out, he might have come out orthodox, and was getting hit a lot. I believe with the right hands, with the speed of Gamboa. But Gamboa also, like in his, at times, like supernatural athleticism, he can be open for shots. That extra fast twitch muscle, it can make him lazy in his defensive responsibilities. He holds his hands low, leaves at times his chin exposed, you know what I mean? And he's vulnerable to get hit when you exchange with him. Actually, it's very similar to Amir Khan, man. You know? The Freddie Roach Amir Khan, like in specific performances, like the Zab Judah performance or Paulie Malignaggi, he looks pretty on point against dudes that he has a speed advantage over, but at the same time, these are speedy dudes, you know what I mean? So they might get flustered when their best game is coming up second, you know what I mean? Against power punches that stand their ground, Amir Khan had trouble. Usually, you know, you gotta be kind of set to hit them, plant your feet, punch with him. That's what Paulie Malignaggi says, right? Dudes that knocked him out, they were kind of rugged, usually, or knocked him down. Then again, Julio Diaz, I don't know if that's necessarily like a rugged guy, but he wobbled him, you know. Chris Algieri, in a very aggressive manner, trained by John David Jackson, he was able to wobble Amir Khan. So you don't have to be the biggest puncher. So it's not about really being the biggest puncher. It's really just about approach. Have you ever seen Terence Crawford walk somebody down like that, you know? I've seen it against Gamboa, but that was very much a smaller guy. When we talk about being a smaller guy, Terence Crawford at the time was a smaller guy, you know? He's the type of guy that at the time that he fought Gamboa, I was saying Terence Crawford is probably the best fighter, like just from a potential standpoint that I'm seeing right now out there fighting. That was still when Mayweather was around and people were calling him pound for pound. Terence Crawford looked like the heir apparent to me at that time, you know. like a mean Pernell Whitaker that can switch hit, you know what I mean? That has size on him, especially at lightweight at the time, you know? Maybe not the body puncher that Pernell was, but still a dude that's technically sound, but at the same time, like, he'll not let you survive. Very much also like Floyd. Technical fighters like a Pernell and Floyd, they get, oh, like a Sugar Ray Leonard. The Flash somehow, like, kind of blinds us to their toughness and ruggedness, you know? Especially when it counts, man. Usually these dudes are pretty good finishers when they have someone hurt. Pernell, not so much, because obviously these are also dudes that were moving up through weights, and especially Pernell and Floyd, you know? Ray moved up, but was more like in specific fights, I'd say, you know, and that were very sporadic. You almost can't really say several comebacks. He has separate careers, really. He fight like 2 times in 5 years, shit like that. Very Tyson Fury-esque, by the way. Yeah, but back to Amir Khan and Terence Crawford. So that Gamboa comparison. Terence Crawford has moved up, man. He has moved up in weight. He's a welterweight now. And against Jeff Horn, I thought to myself, like, Jeff Horn, he was very underappreciated after that Manny Pacquiao win. People had him losing that fight. I also did have him losing. I felt like it was like a 7-5, 8-4 type of performance by Manny. 8-4 if you're generous to Manny, I believe. I think Jeff Horn did a lot better than people were giving him credit for, because obviously, like in the Tim Bradley robbery, you know, they are somehow robberies, but you can make arguments that they are close fights also. Couple of rounds here and there, you come up with a weird scorecard, whatever. I think also that style of Manny Pacquiao leaves a lot of doors open for decisions like that, you know. It's not that, like, that precision puncher, you know what I mean? A lot of times he'll go just like for volume, hoping to overwhelm the technician, you know what I mean? Not that Timothy Bradley or Jeff Horn were like pinpoint counter punchers, you know what I mean? A smaller dude also in Manny Pacquiao. You can overwhelm him with physicality at times, you know. And actually Timothy Bradley, in all the fights he had with Manny Pacquiao, he mixed physicality with counter punching. He brought a sound technique set to the table, you know what I mean? And came up short still, you know. That might just be a lack of talent, you know. Manny Pacquiao is just that his amount of talent outweighs Timothy Bradley's well-roundedness. Yeah, but Jeff Horn, I feel like also he, from a tactical standpoint, mixed it well with his physicality and was able to scrape by somehow, you know what I mean? But I believe if Manny Pacquiao didn't stun Jeff Horn like he did in that fight, like that one round, it might have been a 10-8 round. Also, Manny Pacquiao was missing a lot of these punches, you know? I think if that wasn't like imprinted in fans' memories after the fight, I think that kind of influenced a little bit of the bad stigma after the decision, you know what I mean? Feeling that it was a robbery. I think if he didn't have that round where Jeff Horn was all over the place, I think people would have accepted it maybe a little bit more or easier. But that's neither here or there. I was impressed with the performance by Terence Crawford when he went against Jeff Horn. And he beat the shit out of... He tactically was so much superior than Jeff Horn that when Jeff Horn tried to pretty much like... I don't think he came in with a game plan. He just threw it out the window and started rushing. Terence Crawford tried to be physical. And then when he found out that he wasn't the more physical of the two fighters, man, that shit turned sad pretty quickly, you know what I mean? Terence Crawford took full advantage of Jeff Horn, man, and beat the shit out of him. Bullying him, you know what I mean? Tying him up, walking back to the ropes, laughing to the crowd, you know? Pitiful. You had pity for Jeff Horn. So that legitimizes to me Terence Crawford at welterweight. And him going against Amir Khan. It might not be like the best choice, you know. There are other fighters out there, champions. But they talk about sides and sides of the river, the ocean. What the fuck are they talking about? A lot of talk about sides. I'm on this side, this other guy's on this side. Get a boat or something, you know what I mean? I gotta swim over to his side and it's difficult because I can't swim. Shit like that, you know what I mean? What if an accident happens and I fall into the water and I can't swim? Anyway, yeah, Amir Khan got the shot, you know? They're talking about Amir Khan and Kell, Brook, man. Like, people still crying for that fight. This weird fight, man. Like, The moment you have like two halfway decent British fighters, they're near weight classes, man. You gotta get that garage match. They've been talking about this fight for a while, man. Weird that Kell Brook also, like the style of Marvin Hagler, calling out smaller fights in the style of a Gennady Golovkin. What's with these middleweights? But Kell Brook, a welterweight, had been calling out Amir Khan for years, even when Amir was at 140, right? Because Amir set his sights always high. He was talking about Pacquiao and Floyd. That time, his dream fight, you know? I think that fight is still out there for me. The fight is still out there for me. That's boxing for you. Like, Kell Brook, man. You wanted that fight bad, right? I want it bad, Eddie. I want it badly. Yeah, he wants to serve Amir Khan chocolate brownies, but Amir Khan, he's full, man. He's on a new diet, man. He's not eating that shit. You know what I mean? Why are people like screaming for that fight, man? Would it be a decent fight? Probably, you know. Amir Khan never liked Kell Brook, and like that's reason enough not to fight him, basically, you know. But I can also see like Amir Khan's point, man. Kell Brook always seemed like a weirdo, man. You know, it's almost like he's trying to ride the coattails of Khan. Like Khan was always the guy going over to America, you know what I mean? He has been under the tutelage of all like Freddie Roach, American traders like Virgil Hunter. I don't know who else actually. They ends the list, I guess. Joe Goosen, you know. He went to America to prove himself in like a Nigel Benn, like a Steve Collins, you know, fighting the real elite. Coming up short, but still fighting them. A lot of times not coming up short, you know. Kell Brook, man. Kell Brook, after years of weirdness, man, getting stabbed, all that weird shit, man. Like, he had title shots against Devin Alexander and didn't take and pulled out of and weird shit, you know. That's why fucking Devin Alexander fought Sean Porter, man. That's why Sean Porter became an IBF welterweight champion. And then the match was made. Kell Brook and Sean Porter, man. That's like his highest of high for the Kell Brook, man. Going over to America to beat Sean Porter. In an ugly fight. Both fighters clinching the shit out of each other, man. Kell Brook in the later rounds kinda creating a gap between himself and Sean Porter's like just all-out aggression without really any tactical, I don't know, setup necessarily, just rushing in, man. Cuts and all that, you know. I believe actually Kell kind of hurt Sean Porter in that fight. Kell Brook has decent power. He's a solid welterweight, pretty big welterweight. But it was an ugly fight that I actually had scored for Sean Porter, 115, 113. Yeah, he kind of got lucky there, Kell Brook, man. If he didn't have that win, man, if he lost that fight, man, we'd be talking about a whole different Kell Brook, man. Kell Brook for a lot of years, man. Actually, he held that fucking title hostage, man, with title defense against the likes of Frankie Gavin and Kevin Bizier. Like, it was horrible. And then he challenged himself. Actually, when he heard that Amir Khan is gonna fight, that was the whole thing, man. He wanted to fight Amir Khan. And Amir Khan, like, he doesn't even have a title, man. He didn't want to fight Kell Brook, even with title, you know? He wasn't impressed, basically. Amir Khan getting knocked out by the best, man, where Kell Brook is hiding. Hiding with his belt. That was the whole thing, man. And then Amir Khan takes a chance when he sees, like, Pacquiao and Mayweather creating super fights, and he's the odd man out, you know. He said, fuck it, man, I'm gonna move out, fight another diva, you know. Like, Amir Khan, he's a diva. He wants to be around divas. He's not trying to hang around with the peasants. He wants to be around divas, man. He breathes diva air. So the other divas were busy playing with each other. So he picked a bigger diva, man. Fucking Canelo, Mr. 155, you know. Fought this dude. Kell Brook sees that shit, gets all jealous, because he's obsessed with him. He's Amir Khan's stalker. So Kell Brook goes up to fight Gennady. I hope I get the timeline right, man. But I think so, man. These two are intertwined, and I can't see Amir Khan being the guy following in Kell Brook footsteps. It's not something that plays into the narrative. And also from past behavior, it doesn't play in behavioral patterns. I'm having a hard time with these words. I'm winging it, man. I apologize for my English. I'm doing the best I can, people. Kell fights Gennady, man. Basically quits. His eyes swell up a little bit. Okay, he quit. Alright, he had a bruise on his eye. He quit. His eye socket got broken in. Alright, he quit. Oh no, his corner quit for him. Yeah, man, Amir Khan, he got knocked the fuck out. Alright, he was winning the fight and got knocked the fuck out. Okay? Actually, it was a close fight, man, but like the common narrative usually is that he was winning that fight. Anyway, man, but Amir Khan kinda, you know, he went down fighting. Kell Brook wasn't even man enough to take his own fate in his hands. He just stopped retaliating. He was giving in. The only thing he wasn't doing is going down. He wasn't giving the ref much chance. He wasn't giving his corner much chance. I remember, like, actually after one round against Gennady, he didn't even do badly. Like, he still could throw and still could land. But the bell went for the finish of the round. And he's like stumbling. He's actually not even walking back to his corner for some reason. He's like walking around the ropes, looking at Eddie Hearn in the crowd, who's standing up and shouting advice to Kell. I don't know. Don't quit, Kell. Don't quit. But Eddie, my eye socket, Eddie. So that was a little bit weird, man, to me. You know what I mean? Like, Kell Brook has like a weird aura. Alright, then all that talk about like Kell Brook fighting Errol Spence Jr. Is he gonna stay at 147? Because he still had that welterweight title, you know? He went back down after getting that beat down by Gennady. I still can make 147. That was the whole thing, man. What a brave guy Kell Brook is for defending his welterweight title against the first real challenge. We gave him so much credit for that. Like, I was calling that shit a lamb to the slaughter, that shit that he did with Gennady. Actually, after the fight, like, I was giving him much more credit, but I was caught up in the moment a little bit, you know what I mean? And really, that was the first signs of Gennady's slow regression, I'd say. It's interesting, like, the way he takes risks, you know? Kell Brook. It's always like with that mindset of having an excuse. You know, it's a built-in excuse. With Gennady was the weight, he's coming up in weight, taking a chance. Then he can say, oh my eye. Then he can say, oh my trainer stopped the fight. I didn't stop the fight. Live to fight another day. Then even going back and defending his fucking title. He's a legitimate world champion at welterweight, man. Why wouldn't he fucking take the first real challenge, man? Like, prove your worth as a champion, man. Kevin Bezier and Frankie Gavin, they don't tell us anything, man. You know? Especially while all the other champions are really fighting somewhat real fights, you know? Better fights than Kell. He was the weakest champion, while Paulie Malignaggi was telling us he's the best champion, the best welterweight champion. Yeah. Then he goes against Errol Spence Jr., and we gotta give him credit, right? He's fighting at his own weight, defending his title. In his back garden. Errol Spence had to travel for that shit. Saying he shouldn't, but... It's funny, man, because Kell Brook isn't a bum, you know what I mean? He's a pretty good fighter, actually, and he showed that against Gennady and even against Errol Spence. He exposes chinks in the armor, but he doesn't have the mental fortitude to see it out, you know what I mean? Even if he gets beat, man, it's almost like he chooses his spots to quit. He reminds me actually of Zab Judah. Like, people make the comparison between Adrian Broner and Zab Judah. Zab Judah was the type of dude, like, if you give him that option to quit, he'll take it, most likely, you know? If you're gonna hit him low, he's gonna quit. If you cut him, he's gonna quit, you know what I mean? Don't give him that option, I don't know, you know? He might beat you. Kell Brook, you know, he did very well, and that's the type of thing I mean, like, that front runner syndrome. He might not beat the shit out of Errol Spence, he might not beat the shit out of Gennady Golovkin, but he's in the fight and he might have actually like a little bit the upper hand till like the middle rounds, and then something happens. Is it the conditioning? It's always the weight. At middleweight, he's too small, or his opponent is too big, you know what I mean? At welterweight, he can't make the weight, you know what I mean? But somehow, it's not really him getting tired. It's, at some point, he doesn't seem to fight anymore. He starts clinching a lot, not let his hands go, and gets beat to a pulp. He'll flurry, it looks like he's giving his last effort, and then he'll go to a knee from not necessarily a punch, but like just lingering effects maybe of earlier punches or something, you know? It's more about, he might not have that knockout effect in the flurry, that comeback flurry that he attempts, and that will break his will. It just pushes him over the edge. He willed. Because he doesn't get that reaction, like chocolate brownie, it's not working. Like, he's constantly using that secret move, chocolate brownie, but it's not effective, man. The other motherfucker has a cheat, He's cheating, like the child that gets angry while it's playing Fight Night Champion and you can't knock the motherfucker out. You're hitting him with your best shot. He trashes the console, you know, or shuts it off. Yeah, man. Cancels the game. That dude. Not a good sportsman in that way. Like, take your beating. That's what Paulie Malignaggi is giving Conor McGregor a hard time for. You know what I mean? I can appreciate that, you know? I understand. So, Amir Khan losing brain cells and watching this dude quit, basically. You know what I mean? From nothing that Amir Khan is... Nobody's ever gonna talk about Amir Khan like he's a quitter. They say he has a bad chin. But the first time I've watched Amir Khan was Amir Khan against Marcus Maidana. And I was still like a little noobish, this whole boxing thing. And I was just like blindly basically cheering for the guy that uses movement and looks a little flashy. Basically the faster dude, you know what I mean? Whose technique might look a little better. But I wasn't really paying much attention as far as like effective punching and stuff like that. I was in my, like the fighter with the tassels on his boxing shoes, you know what I mean? Boots, I'm sorry. Something was wrong, I knew something was wrong. But the Tasley dude, man, I was cheering for that guy. But anyway, man, I was cheering for Amir Khan, man, to put a whooping on. And actually surviving more than putting a whooping on Marcus Maidana. And that body shot he hit Maidana with early, man, that looked crisp. Like, it looked more like the Phil Greco Khan, you know what I mean? A more explosive version of Khan. Going to the body with venom. Although I also like that Luis Calazo Khan, you know what I mean? The tactically Khan. He used little tricks, man, to get the shots and very effective. Maybe giving up a little bit of speed for a more controlled style, you know. You gotta also love the Devin Alexander Khan, man. Yeah, you can see, man, tactically guys, southpaws, they have a little bit of trouble with the style, but it's not only tactical. Maybe he has actually really a good feel for southpaws, because Luis Colazo, well, not like a crude fighter, I wouldn't categorize him necessarily like as a technician necessarily, you know what I mean? He's tricky. He's more tricky than a technical fighter. You know what I mean? Like, he's slick in his crudeness. Not crudeness, but in his aggression, because he's a walk you down type of fighter at times. Although he can box, but I don't think that's his first game. If you watch Luis Colazo against Andre Berto, walking down Andre Berto and Ricky Hatton, like, he's actually slick in a way because he kind of gets on the inside, is able to counter you with short shots. He has like a tendency to play the ropes and shit like that. But you will be in a fight with Luis Colazo, man. It's not gonna be point fighting with you. Devin Alexander, he'll point fight more. He'll hit you with something that might not hit you, but it sounds like it hit you, you know what I mean? Because he's like screaming that shit, screaming punches at you, and then he'll clinch you. Actually, it's pretty impressive what he did to Marcus Maidana when they both had their welterweight debuts. That was, while ugly, it was very effective. On any given night, man, some of these fighters that Amir Khan beat could have given like the best fighters in their weight class like a life and death battle, man. Like, don't underestimate fighters like Zab Judah when Amir Khan beat them, you know, or Paulie Malignaggi, you know. They were still high level operators, but what is really my point? Can at 147, Amir Khan's chin hold up to Terence Crawford, who, I would say Terence Crawford is at that stage that Floyd Mayweather was in after he fought Oscar De La Hoya. From a skills perspective, not from a attraction perspective, you know. He has moved up enough weight classes that he's coming close to his limit, what he will be able to do against even bigger fighters than him. But he's so well rounded, and there's just so much ruthlessness when he has fighters in trouble. That Gamboa, even at that stage, like that style he has when he's ready to put you away, that reminds me like of Floyd Mayweather that finishes off Ricky Hatton, even to a large degree against Victor Ortiz, that Mayweather against Miguel Cotto, you know what I mean? I don't think Floyd really had the power. You know, I think maybe Terence is a welterweight still a little bit of a better puncher, but they have a little bit of that same approach, you know, and they'll go for the kill, you know, if you show them weakness. But especially also like that performance from Terence Crawford, not necessarily only when it walks you down, you know, that performance that he had against Victor Postol, That's really the perfect balance, really, between aggression, counterpunching, fighting a controlled style, you know, controlled movement-based style. And he's a switch hitter, man. The flash that he might lack, like that ridiculous athleticism or flash and speed, power, whatever, that he makes up like with his well-roundedness and also that switch hitting factor. Although in recent years, in recent performances, he hasn't really employed it as much. He's more and more become southpaw, you know. This might, like, the only problem I have with Amir Khan, like, is that he also, in recent years, I'm having a horrible time, like, keeping my train of thought. I was talking before about Brook, right? Why fucking Amir Khan doesn't like to fight Kell Brook. Yeah, fucking Kell Brook got his ass beat by Errol Spence Jr., man. Got his title taken. Quit once again, you know what I mean? The other eye socket broke. You know, for some reason, man. He starts blinking, starts going to his knees and getting up at 11, you know what I mean? That was a quick stoppage. Not even that, really. He like put his arms up to be embraced by the referee, you know? Like Mother Teresa, man. Fucking getting, you know, nurtured to sleep. Rockabye, baby, rockabye, Brook. He lost his title, man. Then he said he was a 154 pounder, but hasn't yet fought anybody. Two weird fights. Back to fucking the busiest style of opponents, you know? I'm hating on Busy, but I'm sure he fought people that were worse than Busy at welterweight. Who did he fight in his first fight? Guy Tony Harrison knocked out viciously after outboxing him brilliantly. Ricky Hatton trained at 154. Brook stopped him, put the chocolate brownie on him. These level of opponents usually they react, man, because Kell Brook is still a puncher, so he's gonna be able to talk about chocolate brownies against dude. A couple of weeks ago he fought fucking Zarafa. Michael Zarafa, man. I don't know, man. Dude is a stripper or something, you know? Got knocked out. Like, his claim to fame is fighting Peter Quillen, getting knocked out, man, viciously. Kell Brook, man, fucking struggled with that dude Zarafa, got hit with shots, struggled himself to a decision against Zarafa, man. Now he wants to call for Amir Khan. What are you doing, bro? You don't even know what weight class you're in, you know? Even Amir Khan, like, he signed with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, so everybody was getting their hopes up for that Brook Khan fight. Khan Brook, whatever. Even fought, I believe, at catchweights, right? Fought Phil Greco, knocked him out in a round. And fought Samuel Vargas. Was that at a catchweight? Or was that at 147? I'm not totally sure. Might have been at 147. He didn't look really in shape. So it might have been at 150 or something. Might have been probably catchweight, something like that. Samuel Vargas, man. Like, people might know Samuel Vargas. I know him from getting stopped by Danny Garcia. One of his weird fights. I believe he fought the guy in Philly. And Vargas fucking stunned Khan on multiple occasions. Still fast. He must have been in shape because he was able to survive and obviously fight out the fight and win on the scorecards, but it was a much tougher fight than expected. And from a chin perspective, getting knocked out by Canelo, then Garcia, these are legitimate bona fide punches, you know. But Samuel Vargas is not a good look, you know, getting rocked by him. But it happened, whatever. Maybe didn't take him seriously. I hope that for him, because if he goes like that, in that, I want to say condition, because like your chin also will suffer if you're not in the right shape. But the Amir Khan with Virgil Hunter, when was it, 2015 or something? You know, that version of Amir Khan. I mean, he's 32 now, so it's hard to say because he was in his prime at the time, you know. But that Khan, this might have been the best Khan that we've seen, and people were actually criticizing him a lot. Because he seemed to change his style, having still like vulnerable moments, but he did somewhat change his style. Look at Luis Colazo performance, the Devin Alexander performance. They're pretty good performances for his standards, you know. He wasn't getting rocked in these fights, although it looked like it was not an easy style for him to fight. Actually, just sticking to the game plan, it was just on the surface, like kind of bubbling up, like that urge to break out into his old style, you know what I mean? He held it together in those fights, and I think if you're gonna look at a performance, if he's now going back with Virgil Hunter, if that has any effect at all, I won't fucking act like Virgil Hunter is the best trainer ever. Has like this great effect on fighters that he takes on mid stages of their career, you know what I mean? They're basically finished products coming to Virgil Hunter, and I guess the whispers are gonna elevate them to such legendary heights, but that's more hype than it's reality, you know. Andre Ward is probably, who else, man? Fucking Brandon Gonzalez, a sparring partner for Nick Diaz. These are probably his best, like, dudes that he might have started out with. I don't know, not sure though. Andre Ward, that's definitely a guy that he kind of formed, I guess. But I think maybe the progression he actually made with Amir Khan might have been like the most effective, you know. I would expect, if I'm gonna look for the best version of Amir Khan, I would hope that he's in that form, or can get into that form, you know. As for the legitimacy of the fight, give Amir Khan credit, man. It is a better fight than the Brook fight, and I'm tired of these fights that are kind of forced upon us, you know, by some, like, I don't give a fuck what fans want. I'm my own fucking entity, you know what I mean? I'm not in a fucking bandwagon with a bunch of dudes. Like when they're talking about Canelo and Triple G, I never was fiending for this bullshit. They had a couple decent fights, but there's so much like weirdness involved in making these fights, and also like dudes stepping out of their weight class, bigger dudes calling out smaller fighters, man. Bunch of weird Pacquiao Mayweather negotiation tactics, you know what I mean? Stalling out fights and hyping the public for no reason, like hyping me for a fight that I never wanted. So that's kind of weird to me. Like Kell, Brook, Amir Khan is also same type of shit to me, you know what I mean? So the first time I've seen fucking Amir Khan, like I heard that he had a bad chin. That was all they were saying in the broadcast, in the Maidana fight. This is a guy with a bad chin, he's been knocked out, now coming back, and actually a British guy coming to America, fighting with like I never seen a guy like, I've seen Nassim Hamed and shit, but I wasn't really into boxing that much, like at the time. Like I was more so watching, like I've seen clips of Nassim Hamed, you know what I mean, but I wasn't really aware what he was doing, you know. So looking at Amir Khan, he was like the Sugar Ray Leonard type of fighter, using his movement, fast combinations. Just by chance I was watching that fight, you know what I mean? Or I might have been rewatching that fight, like after the fact or something, you know. At that time I wasn't watching live fights, man. I was downloading old, like when a fight happened over the weekend, I tried to somehow find it and download it and shit like that, you know? I was more so like checking headlines, sporting websites, shit like that, you know. Not too involved at the time, and at the time current scene, you know. Anyway, fucking Amir Khan, I was kind of impressed because that was the propaganda they were spewing, you know. Dude coming off a knockout loss, man. British stars trying to establish himself in America. Looking for the big fights and shit, and fighting like a dude that's a vicious puncher, you know. The fight turned out to be crazy with him dropping Maidana early and getting rocked in the middle rounds, 2 late rounds, you know, kind of coming back. To me, like what he did to survive that fight was at the time just almost winning these rounds, you know. Like him running and like flurrying, holding, and somehow surviving was actually winning to me at the time. Like I didn't know anything about effective punching and shit like that, you know. As a fan, you kind of get schooled on that after watching more and more. You have to. If you don't, you're Jim Lampley or something. Although there's a little method to that madness too, probably an agenda. So I always kind of rooted for Khan, a dude that's willing to take chances. And even the way he was like punching his own chin after like escaping from the ropes after getting hit with a vicious barrage by Maidana, in the back of his head he's constantly thinking like, fuck, everybody's thinking I have a bad chin, I'm dazed as fuck, but I'm still gonna survive this bullshit, man. You know what I mean? And actually make a point like to kind of play it up, you know, shaking his head, you know, like from Ali to Ray Leonard to whoever did that shit, you know what I mean? Showing bravado in the fight, man, even under the stress. I like that shit, you know? So I kind of root for the guy, man. Like people trying to force this fucking Brook Khan fight down my throat. I'm not with it, you know what I mean? I'm good with like Khan staying true to himself, you know what I mean? Always looking for bigger and better options, man. And as much as he was fucking calling out Mayweather, that's the next best thing, as I said, you know? And a dude in his prime. You don't have to like pick on the old dudes. Take a guy that's actually younger than you. Show what you're worth. He does well against technicians, but to categorize Terence Crawford as a smaller or lighter fighter fighting at welterweight, that's only a technician, is underplaying him, you know, underestimating him. Like Max Kellerman says, he's a dog, man. He'll walk you down if you show your weakness. Jose Benavidez showed weakness, and even late in the fight, he took advantage of him. Jeff Horn showed weakness when nothing worked. The panic look came to Jeff Horn where he couldn't overpower Terence Terence made sure to actually test that body off. If Jeff Horn had trouble making weight, once again, the weight, right? Terence is a pretty good body puncher, actually, man, the way he stopped Julius Ndongo. But then again, Julius Ndongo, like the dudes on the boxing coalition used to say, he's hiding glass. He's hiding a glass body, you know? He was also hiding a glass chin, man. That he proved against Progress. Although Progress, he's a pro-gray. He's a very solid puncher also, you know what I mean? Walked through the fire. Actually, he is a fire hydrant. Odds will probably say that Terence Crawford is gonna stop Amir Khan in the later rounds after he might like be in a competitive fight, man. You know, Amir Khan, man, he isn't a front runner, but sometimes like his willingness not to exchange, it's part, you know what I mean? At times he stays a little too much in the pocket, trying to overwhelm his opponent with speed, not necessarily like respecting the returning power punches, but usually dudes like will try to time him while he's like throwing a high volume of punches, right? Plant their feet and try to time him, you know what I mean? And Khan is the type of dude that gets actually hit with the first shot and doesn't realize, uh-oh, I need to get out of here, you know what I mean? Or clinch or stop fucking throwing for the sake of throwing. Like, actually look at fucking Keith Thurman. He's a lot like Amir Khan, that he uses a lot of movement to get him out of like harmful positions. He'll stop on a dime and try to throw hard power shots. He sling power shots, right? And if he doesn't get the effect out of, like, we've seen it against Jose Lopez, if he doesn't get the effect out of his opponent, and if his opponent stands there and is still throwing at him, he'll actually panic. That's a good thing, you know what I mean? He tries to preserve his fucking health, man. He gets out of there. Like Amir Khan, he'll throw not power shots. That element of surprise in Keith Thurman is that he throws like at times unconventional combinations with power, you know? He slings those shots in there, and like I said, if he doesn't get the effect, he's out of there. Amir Khan, he'll stay in there and try to overwhelm you with speed. Actually, his technique goes a little bit out of the window and going for volume only. The technique going out of the window results in power going out of the window. Usually his opponent is going to be the more powerful puncher, setting his feet, picking his punches, punching with Amir Khan and clipping him over the top with hooks and shit. Like, look at fucking, there's a reason Danny Garcia finds success with these blind shots that he's throwing. They are kill shots, and they're blind. Not only is he blind, fucking his opponent is not seeing that shit, man. And now you can hit Amir Khan with straight punches. Like, well, it's a little loop on that Canelo shot, I'd say, you know. Plants feet timed him. I believe timed the jab of Khan. Hit him with the right hand, you know. Like, I believe Amir Khan was kind of circling. Actually, boxing and Canelo was the aggressor, planting his feet. Yeah, Samuel Vargas pretty much did the same thing, right? Timed him, just like punched with him though. A looping right hand. Now he can get hit down the middle too, you know what I mean? Punch resistance is probably tied to physical condition, but that shit is waning down. And just him going with Virgil Hunter, I don't know. Maybe that is actually a good factor for getting in shape. I don't know. You see a good drill sergeant, get his fighters in shape. Might be, I don't know, man. What is his expertise in training, you know what I mean? Whispering sweet nothings, you know, in your ear hole, like Frank Flex would say. Amir Khan, Terence Crawford, man. I can't come to a conclusion, man, but I'm watching this fucking IFL interview of Khan, right? Yeah, let's listen what he has to say, man. Like, I pretty much gave my opinion on the shit, you know? Like, I can see Terence Crawford. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, if Terence Crawford wins a decision. He might not stop Amir Khan, but there is a lot of vulnerability in Amir Khan. If he, in a short amount of time later in his career, can tidy up a couple of technical flaws, hide his chin a little bit more, fight in spurt, I think tying up Terence Crawford, shit like that. I want to see if Terence Crawford can box with Amir Khan, you know? Or if he has to become the aggressor. That's really what I want to see in this fight. Does he have to be more of an aggressor throughout the fight, you know what I mean? Or will he be able to pick his spots and kind of break down Amir Khan and then take over in the later rounds, you know what I mean? That would be also very interesting. That's really boxing with Khan, you know? Testing his skill. How will he be able to deal with the speed? Because Amir Khan at this point in his career, he is what he is, man. We should appreciate him for what he's able to put his body, brain through, you know, to not only entertain the fans, but really he holds himself in high regard, man. I can appreciate that in a fighter, you know. Willing to take chances and not try and fight below a level that's really acceptable from a guy that we would call world class. If Amir Khan is not world level, you can't fault him for not trying. That's a guy that's trying his hardest to be at world level. You know, he's taking chances all the time. Is that because he is getting knocked out and shit? Nah, I don't think so, man. I think that's the guy, you know? If he would be, like I said, he is a diva in a sense, you know? He wants to be among divas, but would he be such a opponent-picking cunt if he was always a A-level type of fighter? Which he is usually. He's not too good to step in against these A-level fighters and be the B-side. I'm talking about that. A-side and B-side, you know? Would he have like an A-side type of personality if he was always the A-side? You know what I mean? If he would win every fight, like if he had Andre Ward's record, if he had Floyd Mayweather's record, I don't know, man. I think losses make you, man. Really? Fucking losses make you, alright? Adversity makes you appreciate also what you have. It's so elusive. That shit that they're actually searching for, all these dudes, man, it's so fucking elusive, man. You gotta somewhat give credit to a dude like Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, Joe Kazagi, these type of dudes, you know? They were able to end their careers undefeated, but it's fucking fleeting, first of all. And at the end of the day, man, yeah, they secure their legacies and secure their families, generations of them. But to a degree, the respect of their peers is really what they're fighting for, if not for the fans. Like, most fighters don't want to hear that shit, man. They will say it and shit, and even fans should wisen up, man. They're not fighting for us, really. We hold them in high regard. We the people who gonna tell our kids and grandkids about them. That will actually manifest the legacy and folklore, you know? But at the time they're around, man, I guess the peers, man, that maybe go through the same shit they go through. How do they see them, you know what I mean? Most people will tell you Amir Khan is a very good fighter, and that's the honest opinion that they should have, you know, because that's the truth. He has a chin problem. It's not a heart problem. It's easier accepted, man. And I'm a fan. I'm the same way. Like, I can easily accept a guy for having a bad chin, man. You know? And that's the most comfortable position to judge a fighter, like sitting on the couch and saying, yeah, I like my fighter to have a heart, you know? Even to expect that is a little weird if you're in such a passive position, like the fan on the couch. But if you think of like a fighter like Amir Khan that gets a lot of flack for having a bad chin, and now you want to talk about like he's not taking the Brook fight, now you want to say he doesn't have the heart? Like lesser fighters like Johnny Nelson, man, there's a fucking reason why I don't remember that dude, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be like ridiculous here. I wasn't really watching that shit when he was fighting, you know? And also, I guess like the public had the displeasure of watching his fights like at cruiserweight. If he stepped up to heavyweight, he might have been like a knockout victim of a couple of good fighters. Anyway, man, Gamble Jones beat your ass, man. Fucking Carl Froch, man, dudes like that, you know, they have a big mouth, man. But there's a reason, like people in America, they respect Amir Khan more than they respect Carl Froch. Like Carl Froch, he can tell Floyd Mayweather as many times as he wants to that he knocked out George Groves in front of 80,000 and all that bullshit, man. Like Floyd Mayweather doesn't give a fuck and he doesn't know your name still, you know what I mean? He knows Amir Khan though. Manny Pacquiao knows Amir Khan, you know what I mean? Canelo Alvarez knows Amir Khan. Same shit like when people talk about Brandon Rios, man. Like most of these dudes that beat Brandon Rios know that he's a real fighter. Like as much as you want to call the guy a bum, man, his peers aren't. Sean Porter might be, but Sean Porter's a weirdo. As much as he's a rugged fighter that I've heard people actually compare like to all-time great fighters, saying that Sean Porter could actually compete in every era at welterweight. There are a lot of fighters like Sean Porter, man. You know what I mean? What's the dude that beat Ray Robinson? But Robinson also knocked him out with that vicious left hook going backward. He also beat Carmen Basilio twice. Tough dude, man. He reminds me of Sean Porter a lot. So yeah, I can see that, man. But Sean Porter is kind of a weirdo. Did anybody see him like on this Fox News thing that they're not doing like the UFC, like the UFC shows, you know, with the one chick and the two fighters, and they were interviewing Manny Pacquiao before the Broner fight. And Sean Porter was kind of like stalkerish himself, you know. He was asking like Manny Pacquiao who he'd fight after Broner, and not really like challenging him right there to his face, but it was very obvious Sean Porter's intentions, you know what I mean? And he was so direct and asking like an elusive weirdo, like also Pacquiao, you know. He's like a child basically. He's like giggling and shit, you know what I mean? And Sean Porter is like asking him if he might reconsider fighting Floyd Mayweather. That was stupid to me. What are you doing, Sean, man? Get a hold of yourself, you know? Pacquiao's a big boy, Floyd is a big boy, they make a lot of money. You wanna fight me and my fucking 170 frame coming into the fight at fight night, like making your life miserable, Manny. You know, I've seen the Chafon fight and, you know, I thought maybe you wanna have a little tune-up with me. The way he was looking at Manny, man, he was so fucking serious. He reminded me a lot of his father at that point, you know, you can see like the Kenny Porter traits of like uncomfortable, like, militant thing, you know, going on, like staring you down, like saying something where you would expect like to have like a relieving or pressure relieving, tension relieving laugh after, you know, and nothing comes and you're like just like looking in each other's eyes and like awkwardness all over the place, man. Like, all right, next question. Like, I'm talking from the perspective of these reporters have to fucking interview Kenny Porter, man. But Sean Porter, man, he had that intense look when he was staring down Manny Pacquiao, you know. Like, it wasn't really a question. It's almost like it was a call out, like hidden in the most polite way, you know. And then also like they were talking. I think Abnormal something he was talking about, or was it Sean? Talking about like Pacquiao singing. That was weird. It might have been Sean, man. It was like some passive aggressive shit from Sean, you know what I mean? He wanted that shit bad, like almost like he wanted to set up a ring and have like a couple of rounds of sparring, like get that shit in, you know what I mean? Get some work in. They were asking Manny, like, you want to sing maybe for us? And then like Pacquiao was kind of laughing. Oh no, I'm not singing. Kind of laughed it off, you know what I mean? The camera panned over to Sean and he was like, now we're gonna make you sing, don't worry about that. What the fuck are you doing, Sean, man? Stop being so fucking serious, bro. It's like the wrong moment to be so serious. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, man, I don't know, man. Let's keep watching this. Like, I'm talking. Let's keep watching this shit, man.
Light welterweight to welterweight, the punch, the power is not the same. He's coming up a weight, so he's quite new in this weight division. I think, you know, and he's in the pound for pound rankings as 1 or 2. So it's ticking all the boxes. And then I looked at the Kell Brook fight. If that fight was to happen, is he going to sell like he would have sold a year ago? I don't think so. That bad performance he has against his last opponent was really bad. That people are not really talking about the fight now, or people don't want.
But Khan is funny, you know. With all that shit I've just said, you know. Khan is a funny guy, man. Like, he's obviously avoiding that Brook fight, you know. I'm not denying that shit, you know what I mean? But what did he just say? Like I said, man, Kell Brook had a bad fight against Rafa. Khan had a bad fight against Samuel Vargas. So really, like them, like colliding, it would be like a battle of the bums in a way, you know. It's just below, below being like two fighters coming off losses, you know, in the cringe scala. So I understand kind of like ducking that stigma. Going against Terence Crawford for a welterweight title, man, it actually doesn't have to explain himself. Everything about it is better than fighting Kell Brook. And like from a risk reward factor also, you know, I don't like talking about that because it's almost like every fucking boxer nowadays has been schooled on that shit, you know, on that theory. Reward over risk makes sense in this case, you know what I mean? It's a more interesting fight for both Terence and Amir Khan than having like this matchup between like fucking Jeff Fennick and Azuma Nelson when they're 50, you know what I mean?
I really want to see the fight between me and him. That's another thing there. Selling in a stadium, probably won't sell a stadium. It'd probably be hard to sell in a stadium. And there was another thing that was...
And there's another thing that I wrote down before I had this interview, like before I got to this shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is my list. All the reasons why I won't fight Kell Brook. Also, most likely, the sun won't come out on that day, you know. I don't want to really fight him. I heard bad weather, you know. Like, I heard it's gonna rain on that day, you know. Also a good reason not to fight him.
And all we do, me and Kell Brook, is talk bad about each other. And I don't want to do that. I'm not one of them guy type of guys. I like to be one of the good guys in the sport.
Did he say I'm not one of them guy type of guys? Hey, did he say Kell Brook was into dudes? You know, maybe that's also on his list, man. Why is he forgetting that? That should be on his list, right? I'm just like having a highlight clip of Orlando Cruz, man, fighting Orlando Salido. The battle of the Orlandos.
If we can have if this was me and Kell Brook in a press conference, we'd be talking bad about each other. We'd be, disrespecting each other. And I don't want to be in a fight like that because that's not where I am. I'm too old for that. I don't want to do that. I'm a man now. I'm
He's a nice guy now.
32-year-old, and I want to be respectful, go in there and do my business, let my fist do the talking. But Kell doesn't want to see it that way. So I feel that when I put them both together, I said, and then while I was thinking about it, then I hear another report that comes on Twitter that Kell said this and Dud said that, this about me and said that about me, calling me a chicken. I said, you know what, I don't want to fight the guy now. I mean, he's just too disrespectful, and if he was more respectful, then the fight probably would have happened. Honestly, it would 100% would have happened, because he's so disrespectful and he always talks down, and I'm like, how can you disrespect me so much and then want to fight me and then expect to get like million views on pay-per-view, where people will think, wait a minute, Kell, you said he's rubbish or he's shit and you're gonna knock him out, so why should we watch this fight? Because we know you're gonna win easily. The way he made it.
Wait, I have to hear that shit again.
And then while I was thinking about it, then I hear another report that comes on Twitter that Kell said this and Dud said that, this about me and said that about me, calling me a chicken. I said, you know what, I don't want to fight the guy now. I mean, he's just too disrespectful, and if he was more respectful, then the fight probably would have happened. Honestly, it would 100% would have happened, because he's so disrespectful.
Because that sells respect, you know? But for some reason I believe him. I don't know, man. Something about Amir, you know? I actually don't think he's lying.
And he always talks down, and I'm like, how can you disrespect me so much and then want to fight me and then expect to get like million views on pay-per-view, where people will think, wait a minute, Kell, you said he's rubbish or he's shit and you're gonna knock him out, so why should we watch this fight? Because we know you're gonna win easily. The way he made it, so I just think he killed that fight himself, and that's the reason the fight didn't happen. Right, if you
But also, like, fans want to see fighters confident that they're gonna win, you know what I mean? That's actually the hardest thing for fucking reporters and media to get out of these fighters, you know? You want to make a prediction? Like, I'm not gonna make a prediction. Like, nah, you want to hear a fucking prediction, bro? Like, even if you don't believe it, just say that shit, man. That's why Conor McGregor is so big, man. Against everybody he went in, he's predicting that, like, motherfucker, actually reporters will prepare on that shit, you know? They're kind of used to him, like, making these bold predictions, so they're fucking in the crowd, like, every fucking press conference of just McGregor, one media member's in the crowd, and usually it's not only one, it's like a couple of them, you know? They sit there, man, just waiting for the moment the mic gets to them, and then, Mystic Mac, you're known for making predictions. What is your prediction for this fight? Yeah, I'm gonna knock him out in the first round. Okay, bad accent and everything, but you know what I'm saying, man? 4 fucking reporters asking the same shit, man. You gotta be at least like 50% on your predictions, if that shit's gonna work, you know? Ali, McGregor, these type of dudes actually got that shit right a couple of times, you know? So they kind of established it. People want to hear fighters being confident, man. Like, usually if a fighter is talking down to the opponent, they also say, like, yeah, I respect his skills, but like, he's a cunt. Like, even the media will ask them, his last fight, would you say he did a good job in that fight? Would you give him credit for winning that fight or whatever, you know what I mean? Usually a fighter is smart enough to give a little bit of credit. I don't know if Kell Brook does that, but I guess once again, man, Khan has a point.
respectful. I'm not scared of him. I mean, I'm going on and finding a tougher guy. The money in a way probably works out about the same, to be honest with you. But I just feel that I'm not scared taking the Brook fight. I would have loved to have that Brook fight. I would have loved to take that Brook fight, but it's just I want to be respected a little bit as well. I'm a man, I have kids. I don't want someone talking rubbish about me. That fight between me and Brook might never happen now. You know, I don't want my kids growing up and saying, "Oh, Daddy, who's this Kell Brook always talking bad about you?" And so I don't want to live that. You know, I got a little girl now who can.
When they ask the question, wouldn't you like to finish that statement?
What did I say? Making it up as you go.
By saying, yeah, that's the one that I beat in the ring, and, you know, wouldn't you like to say that as a finishing statement to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be a good one to do. But at the same time, um, I'll say, yeah, that would be.
To finishing.
You know what's funny? Look at Amir Khan's expression when he's like answering these questions. Actually, in the moment, evaluating that notion. You know what I mean? When you'll be able to tell your children, beat that dude. You know? For a second, he lights up. His face lights up. Like, yeah, that would be awesome and shit. But then, like, that little devil on his shoulder creeps in. Check it out.
By saying, yeah, that's the one that I beat in the ring in, you know, wouldn't you like to say that as a finishing statement to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be a good one to do. But at the same time, I'll say I'll probably not fight him because I'll say, you know what, keep saying them things because he's going to keep on saying them. Even if I knock him out and beat him, he's going to always keep talking. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just rather just walk away and put a bag over that fight and that fight will never need to happen again. But don't get me wrong, I love to have that fight and I want that fight, but he just needs to be a little bit more respectful and, I mean, you have to promote fights. You know, we're businessmen, we want to promote fights, and let's do it the right way instead of doing it the wrong way, you know?
It seems to be the perception is that, not that you're scared of Kell Brook, and no one can accuse you of.
You know, all the rubbish like people like cloutchase say, oh, Amir scared, what's he doing? Spencer Farron. I mean, all these guys, all these things that these people say, I just think it's rubbish. And I think that, wait a minute, do you even understand the sport? Like, you're saying I'm scared of someone when I'm fighting someone who's better. I don't understand. I don't know where they're coming from. And I just feel that, you know what? To me, it seems a little bit more than that, but I don't want to go too deep into it. It's a bit more than that, you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of jealousy there, but there's something else there which I don't want to talk about. But it is what it is.
Okay. Alright, let's speculate. So is he saying that Spencer Fearon, a black man, a black British man, and Carl Froch, they're anti-Islamic. I don't even know why I mentioned that the guy is a black dude, you know what I mean? So, is that what Amir Khan is alluding to? You know, is there an anti-Islam agenda? Islamophobia? Are these dudes Sky employees? I don't know what he's saying, my man. Is Amir Khan alluding to these dudes being Islamophobic or whatever, or having an anti-Islam agenda? Is that even what Amir Khan is talking about? You know what I mean? Do you think that's true? If he's talking about it, it kind of falls into line with the speculation about Kell Brook's preferred, who Kell Brook likes to mingle with, I guess. You know what I mean? In the bedroom or whatever. I don't even know where that's coming from, but maybe Amir's grasping at straws. Usually people that are around, you know, like UK people, that goes to you. Does Amir have a point?
The perception seems to be, not that you're scared of Kell Brook at all, but the perception seems to be that because it's been going on for so long, this rivalry, it's the fear of losing that fight. Would you say that was true or not?
Never. I mean, I would never be beat by Kell Brook. He can never beat me. So there's no fear there. I've never once in my life thought he'll ever beat me. So, no, you're wrong there.
I don't know, man. You know, body language experts would say he's biting his lip or something, right? After saying he's wrong, I don't know. But that's a good question. That's probably what people always saying, right? Amir Khan can't live with losing to Kell Brook. His style kind of lends you to believe that there's always that chance. People might like actually favor Kell Brook over Amir Khan. Anyway, that's not the point, right? When he says Kell Brook can't beat him, I believe him. You know what I mean? I believe that's what he believes, you know? But at the same time, would he be able, because boxing, it's unpredictable. We all want to be experts. Like, I've seen many fucking boxers have wrong predictions and glaring weaknesses in breakdowns of fights, you know what I mean? Boxing is unpredictable, especially Amir Khan knows that. Brady's breast cut, oh my god. How about that, man? I guess I have to record long enough so shit that escapes me in the beginning can come to me later on. But Brady's breast cut was the guy that knocked out Amir Khan, I believe. Was it at lightweight? I believe at lightweight. As a big underdog. upsetting the apple cart. Also, got knocked out by Mike Alvarado in one of his come-up fights, in a brutal fight in which he had Mike Alvarado's lip split, and also Terence Crawford tested the waters against Brady Prescott, I believe at 140, when he was still a lightweight. He was still a lightweight contender at the time. Brady Prescott stopped Amir Khan, so Amir Khan knows how unpredictable boxing is. Big favorites have knocked him out, but also underdogs have knocked him out. So there is a chance of him losing in devastating fashion to Kell Brook. But still, man, that competitive spirit of a fighter, you can see it when he answers that question, or when he says that he doesn't think Kell Brook can beat him. Let's listen to it again.
The fear of losing that fight. Would you say that was true or not?
I mean, I would never be beat by Kell Brook. He could never beat me. So there's no fear there. I've never once in my life thought he'll ever beat me. So, no, you're wrong there.
Eddie Hearn wasn't here today, and he wasn't at your press conference on Tuesday. He's openly said that, before that, while the negotiations were going on between you and Terence Crawford, that, in his words, he'd be pissed off if you took this fight. So how was kind of that with Mr. Hearn?
I mean, look, he's good. He called me earlier today saying that Amir can't make it to the press conference. He's got some weigh-in going on or something. There's a show happening tomorrow. Yeah, so I'm at the weigh-in. So, he sent me a picture as well to prove it. And then Frank came running in, and also he had another guy. What's his name? Anthony, Lee, Mr. Lee, who's still here. Mr. Lever is still here. Yep, Mr. Lever is right there.
Nice deflection.
Okay, well listen, like I said, no one can kind of accuse you of ducking anyone because you're going in against, pound for pound, one of the best.
I feel a little bit down and a little bit bad for not giving the UK fans what they wanted. It's a little bit more personal than that because it's more like it's just Kell. I just feel like he's been very disrespectful, and that's why I just want him to. I just want him,
What do you want, Amir? Amir is such a good guy, right? He makes the point of addressing the UK crowd. He feels down for disappointing the UK crowd, but what do you want to do? You want Kell to, he's hanging over Kell Brook's career. He knows he has so much influence in Kell Brook's career, man. It's hard to kind of deny that power, it seems like, you know what I mean? To have him in the palm of his hand. That's what we're seeing with Mayweather, with all of his opponents. Look at him in fucking Khan. Look at him on fucking Pacquiao. Look at him in Pacquiao right now. Mayweather isn't an active fighter. I'm sorry, guys, man. I have allergies. My nose is giving me trouble. Yeah, but that whole dynamic, man. Boxers begging other boxers. That goes back a long way, man. Where boxers try to humbly ask for fights and it becomes kind of stalkerish. Remember Aaron Pryor walking up to Sugar Ray Leonard at Sugar Ray Leonard's press conference and getting kind of put in his place. Lara with Canelo. I guess you gotta be demonstrative and even volatile to get a fight. But even Kell Brook, it's a weird thing, man, because his nature isn't that. Throwing insults, Queen Khan, in a sedated kind of way, you know what I mean? So it doesn't carry over to me, you know what I mean? It's not Nigel Benman telling Chris Eubank that he hates him, that it's personal for him. There's no hate in this. And also that Wizard of Oz type of thing. I talked about that I wouldn't think that Khan would have that A-side character, you know? But he might have. He's getting a taste of it, you know what I mean, with that whole Kell Brook thing. But also, it's just not his style, man. Amir Khan sees himself on the world stage competing, you know what I mean? Kell Brook is looking for a domestic dust-up. And that's kind of beneath Amir, and I kind of agree with him, man. I kind of agree with him, with all the losses and everything, with all the flaws. You know what I mean? With all the Skype sessions, you know? I like Amir Khan more than I like Kell Brook, man. Kell Brook is strange. Is he a real one? I'm not sure. He's a guy that steps into the ring. He's a world-class fighter. But then again, does he really see himself as that? You know what I mean? Kell Brook with Amir Khan's confidence and self-belief, what would he be able to achieve, you know? Kell Brook, man, he gets stabbed and shit, you know what I mean? He gives you fodder for questioning. It's weird, man. He gets stabbed and then he can't really fight for his title or can't defend his title. It's the weirdest thing, man. Like, he wins a world title, close and all that, and then he gets stabbed. I mean, I don't want to blame him for getting stabbed or whatever, but who knows, man. Kinda gotta put himself there, right? Anyway, man, that's not about that, you know? I'm just saying, man, Kell Brook, with all he achieved, it's like I said, man, it's all with built-in excuses, and it's still that Marvin Hagler thing, man. Marvin Hagler calling out smaller dudes. Like, I like Marvin Hagler, but if I'm going to talk about, like, the 80s, I'm going to talk more about, like, Durant, Leonard, Hearns, dudes that challenged themselves and went through the weight classes and did a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Benitez even, man. He had a short period when he had all his skills and was on top, kind of. But yeah, Hagler was kind of calling out smaller dudes. Let's be real now. Like, people say he was never a real light heavyweight and he was just staying in the weight class he was most comfortable in. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think Michael Spinks was around, right? Like, I'm not that type of historian that I really know, but I don't know. Kind of looks bad. And Hag was a dog, man. He earned his shit. Like, that's also a task, man. Fucking staying in the weight class like that, like Bernard Hopkins did. That sacrifice throughout the years, you know what I mean? And Marvin Hagler didn't have an easy come up also. So you can't just become a superstar. You know, shit like that. That's not something that you can earn, I feel like. You know what I mean? You either are or you're not. Like, Marvin Hagler had to get the rub. You know what I mean? Sean Porter, the type of fighter that has to get the rub on their own skill and will and all that. Tim Bradley, these type of fighters, they have to get the rub. Tim Bradley has the Pacquiao rub. Sean Porter, actually, you can say, just an accumulation of good wins, has gotten a rub from all his opponents. He's probably the closest thing to a guy that, without like having those glaring superstar qualities, that has been able to not build himself to a superstar, but like Sean Porter might end up being a legend in the game. You know what I mean? But it's more of like a Bernard Hopkins type of style of doing it, you know? Marvin Hagler type of style of doing it. Like, Bernard got his rub rather late, like with the Trinidad fighting smaller dudes. Trinidad dudes like that, you know what I mean? Hagler too. Hearns, Leonard, that's all late in his career. After going through wars, man. Like, people think of him as like this marauder and shit, man. He was a technician early on, man, going through the Philly circuit. He had to fight some dudes, man, that weren't easy. Like, he had to keep them off. He took his losses too. Willie Monroe Jr., he's living off his fucking, I believe, uncle's name. But that's the guy that beat Marvin Hagler. First guy to beat Marvin Hagler, you know? A slick dude. So Hagler get outboxed. He had like these crazy Benny Briscoes, like dudes like that, that's gonna come to you regardless. Not unskilled fighters, man. Cyclone Hart, punchers, all that. He faced all that shit. Caveman Lee, Fulgencio Obel, Obel Maez, something like that. That dude, man. He gave him all he could handle in his first fight against Marvin. Marvin also rematched these dudes, you know what I mean? Antifermo beat the shit out of him in the rematch, got robbed in the first one. Actually, there was a closer fight than people say. Like, people say it was robbed. Like, Marvin kind of fought the wrong game plan against Antifermo. Maybe boxed a little too much, you know what I mean? Played it safe. Like, Marvin had to learn, man, on the job, kind of. You know? Learn from his mistakes, man. Become one of the greatest well-rounded fighters ever. Really, like, you would think Terence Crawford is like a superstar type of fighter, but he's the type of guy that has been accumulating his resume on like a lot more. The substance is just on the full record, you know what I mean? A lot of good fighters. Maybe he hasn't fought a great fighter. I don't think Terence Crawford. I don't think Errol Spence has fought a great fighter, you know? A lot of these dudes out there, they haven't fought great fighters. Adrian Broner, has he fought great fighters? It just depends, I guess, what you're gonna call great. Is Sean Porter a great fighter? There's so many questions, man, and I'm going round and round in circles, man. Let's keep watching while I have trouble with my nose. Dealing with motherfucking allergies.
I don't suffer. Like, I just want him to like know what he's done wrong, and that's why the fight didn't happen. Because it's just Kell. I just feel like he's been very disrespectful, and that's why I just want him to. I just want him, you know, to like. I don't suffer. Like, I just want him to like know what he's done wrong, and that's why the fight didn't happen. Because end of the day, it's wrong how he takes things and how he says things and how he disrespects me. If you want to promote a fight, like, you didn't see Pacquiao and Mayweather when they were fighting each other. They never dissed themselves. They were always respectful, but saying, "Oh, he's a great fighter, but I'm gonna beat him." Said that, but I mean, not like, "Oh, he's this, he's that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna knock him out. I'm gonna do this."
Hasn't that been you as well as him in the last few years?
Obviously, not me, not really.
Why do British dudes do this thing that Amir does? I don't see it. I'm raised. I don't know what they're doing.
To be honest with you, I don't really like talking about him. That's another interview for my...
It's that I can't be bothered face they do, you know? I can't be bothered. Honestly, I can be bothered. You know? What is that?
Well, IFL London, which is all about Kell Brook again, but guess what? Oh, I'm so bored talking about him. Kell, wish you all the best. Who you fight next?
Oh god! Like mental breakdown by Amir.
Talking about him. That's another interview from
pissed
IFL
off,
London,
man.
which is all about Kell Brook again, but guess what? Oh, I'm so bored talking about him. Kell, wish you all the best. Who you fight next? Tell you 154. Who's he got against? What's that guy called?
Now
Who's
he's
that 154
trolling.
champion. He's mandatory against.
Oh, Gerald Hurt.
Hurd, yeah. Good luck against Hurd. You need it.
Oh shit!
We're calling him back again, mostly, man.
That was a great exit, man. It was wrong to call him back for that shit, man. Good luck against Jared Hurt. Oh shit, that's savage, man. Like, honestly, he said, I don't want him to suffer, but he was lying, bro.
You're back, obviously, with Virgil, which must be a huge boost going into this fight with Crawford.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to be back with Virgil Hunter, and I think I owed it to him. Don't get me wrong, Joe Gusto was an amazing trainer. Just that Virgil, it seems that, you know, he got sick, but it seems that I owe it to him because now he's better and he's looking good. That's why I decided to go back.
Just one final one. Obviously, Saturday night, Broner Pacquiao. What's your thoughts on it? Who wins?
It's 60-40 towards Manny Pacquiao, but we don't know which Manny's going to turn up. Has Manny got old overnight, or has Broner still got it? So it's hard to say. But Broner's still young. He's still got the still, like, you know, got the power and the movement and the speed. So does he need that, or does he need a little bit more? I mean, who knows? The fight we'll see on Saturday night at the fight.
Have you got a preference where you want this fight to be,
man.
here or in Vegas?
It's nice to be in New York or Vegas, really, either. Yeah, I mean, London, yeah, definitely. It would have been wicked if it's in London. But yeah, I mean, anywhere, really.
I don't suppose it matters to you where this ends up TV-wise in the UK, whether it happens on Sky or on BT.
Sky, to be honest with you, because my last two fights have been on Sky, and I think Sky have been brilliant, you know, promoting the fights and everything. That's no disrespect to any other network out there, but I'd rather be that Sky family and have it on Sky. So then Carl Froch and people can still talk shit about me all the time and say, oh, you're this, you're that, and, you know, Spencer, what's his name? Spencer Fairbairn also talk shit about me. So I think it'd be nice if it's on Sky. Gives them a bit of a job. Gives them a job, gets them paid. Talk shit about Amir Khan. Yeah. Alright, bro.
Thank you very much.
Amir, man. He said he's too old to be talking shit, but he's flapping his gums. Am I right? Alright, hey, that's it now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Have a good one.